a question for you related to Bitcoin. When we went to the Bitcoin conference, we did see a lot of conservative figures. Trump came out and said he's going to be for Bitcoin and embrace it. We had RFK Jr. since last year saying he has policies that are going to be pro-Bitcoin. And then the Biden and Kamala administration, they've been the most hostile.
In this riveting discussion, investigative journalist Whitney Webb pulls back the curtain on the shadowy alliances shaping the global financial system. Joining forces with YouTuber Natalie Burnell, Whitney dives deep into the murky waters of Bitcoin politics, exposing how corporate giants like BlackRock are positioning themselves as puppeteers of the financial world. But this isn't just about power moves in boardrooms. Whitney reveals how BlackRock, backed by political powerhouses, is the chosen vehicle of the U.S. government's grand plan for financial control. Larry Fink, BlackRock's CEO, has been buzzing about tokenization lately. But to Whitney, this isn't just tech talk. It's the slow creep towards a total erosion of financial privacy and anonymity. She connects the dots, even referencing Donald Trump's speech at the Bitcoin conference 2024. While Trump appeared to wave the Bitcoin flag, his nod to stablecoins raised red flags for Whitney. She argues that stablecoins are just a cleverly disguised version of CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, programmable and trackable, with the ability to monitor and control every dollar you spend. From limiting what you can buy to tracking your financial behavior, stablecoins, she warns, could strip away the very essence of financial freedom. Whitney's message is clear. If true financial independence and hyper-Bitcoinization are the end goals, we must push for robust privacy solutions. Only by stripping away programmability and surveillance features can we preserve the future of Bitcoin as a tool for real freedom. As we bring you more clips from the interview, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel to help us reach more viewers. Don't forget to turn on post notifications to stay updated with our latest content. Share your thoughts and observations in the comment section below. Thank you, and enjoy the video.
Can you offer your take on specifically related to Bitcoin, the people that are passionate about financial freedom and the candidates that we have to select from?
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty obvious. It's the conservative camp really only, aside from, RFK being an independent, that are interested in really appealing to the Bitcoin base at all as it relates to electoral politics. And they've done so very successfully. But I think, again, what you're seeing here is sort of what we saw over the course of the past year was sort of Wall Street warming up to Bitcoin. It's just another extension of the establishment cozying up to Bitcoin, I guess. So I guess you could frame Larry Fink's about face and all of that as sort of the private sector establishment turnaround, and this is sort of the public sector establishment turnaround. But as far as it relates to financial freedom, I don't think the policies expressed by, Trump, or at least what Trump expressed or hinted at in his speech, as far as RFK's went, he was more deliberate about what his policies, and Trump was a little more vague. But based on what, Trump said, talking about sort of yoking Bitcoin and the dollar together and using that to expand the dollar's power and hegemony globally, and then also bringing in stable coins, which of course would be in this case dollar denominated stable coins into the play. We have to consider what that means if the reason we're voting for it is to ensure that Bitcoin will be used to propagate financial freedom globally. So, if you're of the opinion that you want hyper Bitcoinization to come at all costs, even if that means it not being a tool for financial freedom anymore, or it being used by intelligence agencies to surveil people, or by Wall Street do their thing, then maybe it's fine. But if you're of the idea that, I want Bitcoin to be empowered to irresponsible fiscal policy at the national level and want it to ensure financial freedom for everybody, then I don't think Trump's policies necessarily spell that out, unfortunately. And part of that has to do with the whole stablecoin play against central bank digital currencies. But the problem with stablecoins, particularly the big ones, is that they're just as programmable and surveillable as CBDCs could be. So most people are against CBDCs because of the programmability aspect and and the surveillability aspect, being able to trace and surveil every dollar you spend. And stablecoins can offer that as well, because most of them are built, they're like ERC20 tokens right at the end of the day, and have that programmability functionality. And some stablecoin issuers that are prominent, like Circle, openly openly talk about the programmability aspects of their stablecoin. And, they're in a very deep alliance with BlackRock Circle particularly, and Tether itself has made an alliance with the FBI and the Secret Service and, other aspects of the U.S. government to freeze wallets at the behest of the U.S. government, thereby making Tether sort of a soft extension of U.S. foreign and fiscal policy abroad as it relates to sanctions and other things, some of which the U.S., of course, in the past has used to facilitate regime change operations and other things, not necessarily stop terrorism, as they are inclined to say. So it's important to keep that in mind. If you're allowing intelligence agencies, what the FBI technically is, to be onboarded onto your stablecoin, it's really not a private sector thing, it's a public-private partnership. And public-private partnership is the model that the U.S. and really most of the world essentially favors. And so, I think these stable coins offer that same kind of threat to financial freedom, or, easily could develop that way. And so, if programmability and surveillability is the threat to financial freedom, then we should not support that, right? And instead look for ways to build robust privacy tools on the base layer of Bitcoin, maybe, and try and make it something that's transactable, as opposed to this idea of having it be a storage technology for asset storage, as Larry Fink says, and something no one spends and people just hold.
And I was wondering if you could kind of break down the mechanics, because I know a lot of my viewers or listeners will be familiar with the fact that the dollar is in trouble, maybe not in the near term, because these things take a while to play out. What is this plan that you sort of see in place, this strategy, so that the dollar remains the global reserve currency, but there is that Bitcoin component to it?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you consider what the fiscal policy has been with respect to the dollar, since the creation of the Federal Reserve, the purchasing power of the dollar has just, been demolished over the course of the past 100+ years. So in order to sort of get away from that, viewing Bitcoin as really the only means of digital credit, if you're going to digital dollars, if you're able to yoke digital dollars to that and use it as a sink for hyperinflation, that seems to be sort of the idea here. And obviously the person that can speak best to this is Mark, who wrote the book on the Bitcoin dollar. But I think ultimately at the end of the day, if that system is to come to fruition, it has major implications for why a lot of people got into Bitcoin in the first place, which is to stop irresponsible central bank policy and irresponsible U.S. government fiscal policy and, the debt burden and all of that, because it doesn't provide any incentive for them to stop hyperinflating, essentially, creating more debt and all of that. They just the view seems to be that they could just use it as a sink for the debt. I mean, obviously something has to be done about the U.S. national debt, but is this really the best way to do it? And I don't know. I personally think that some of the people responsible for all of the debt in government, Congress, most of those people are multimillionaires working on behalf of multi-billionaires. Maybe they should be held accountable for some of the national debt stuff and not just be like, oh, we can use Bitcoin as our plaything to sort of get out of all the irresponsible decisions we've made for the past, 100 years plus.
How do you see, maybe in a positive way, Bitcoin holding the government more accountable, or helping us move to a standard that is a little bit more fair and based on something that no one can manipulate or control? Or do you really worry that they can kind of surveil and track your Bitcoin? Like, do you think that these forces are just going to clash and one's more powerful than other?
Yeah, well, I think the system they're setting up, the goal is to have the US dollar, Bitcoin, and stable coins all be part of the same ecosystem. And you see prominent Bitcoin banks, as it were, like Zappo, marketing that they're the bridge between those three things, because the goal is to have those three things all be part of the same system, as it was essentially outlined by Trump's speech. As it relates to Bitcoin, I think that is not the answer. I think, if Bitcoin is the sound money, it should be what is transactable between people, and that robust privacy tools need to be built upon it. Because if the issue is surveillability, I think that needs to be tackled there. And I think, based on how this whole system's been described, the retail facing part of it would be the stable coins, and that people would just be holding but never transacting with their Bitcoin. But there has to be consensus for that, and it seems like the establishment consensus, and there's a lot of people in the Bitcoin space that are just very caught up in the electoral politics and the emotions of it, and feeling validated for what the industry they've been in for several years, that's obviously sort of not been favored by the establishment. Some people are maybe thinking, since the establishment is favoring this, let's cheer it on. But is it really the best system for everybody? And is it the best for financial freedom? I think the ethos is very important. I think Bitcoin is unique, and it's really the only opportunity like this we're likely to have, at least in this important window of time. It's very likely that in the next 2 years, whoever wins in November is going to be president during an unprecedented US government debt crisis. And this is, if you already see it in Trump's policy, if he's in office, this is the system he's going to propose as the solution. And when there is a crisis and the solution is proposed, a lot of people, because it's a crisis and are demanding a rapid resolution to that crisis, they don't think about what's best in the long term necessarily. They're just looking for something to solve the immediate crisis. And so I think this is sort of hinting at what we're going to see. And so really, this is one of the key reasons why you saw an unprecedented wealth transfer happen during COVID. And this plan wasn't implemented as soon as COVID started. They actually started when the repo market started to go haywire at the end of 2019 and used COVID as the excuse to ramp it up. My view is that the government is essentially run by, organized crime and intelligence agencies that have fused what they do, and it's been very profitable for them, and they're going to continue to do that and pull the strings of both parties. And when there's a crisis, this is invariably what happens, and there's plenty of historical precedents to look at as far as the economics of it are concerned.
I felt a lot of hope in Bitcoin, and I want to tug on something that you said. Do you see that as being possible at all, that like it could Trojan horse in the solution so that we don't have to deal with all this? I mean, there will always be corruption, but that it won't be so easy, because when you can manipulate the money, it makes it a lot easier and more lucrative to do the horrible things that we see people doing.
Well, I think it depends on what happens with regulation and moving forward ultimately. I think it's been made very clear by the people that like it in the traditional financial system now that they only like it if it's used as digital gold and not as something transactable. They don't want to transact with it. They want it to be something that's held and again is for asset storage, really, and that it's a digital asset, that it's never a digital currency. And I think we would be naive to underestimate them. And so if you want it to be those things and want it to be a currency and be transactable and be able to challenge some of these efforts to centralize it and surveil it, then efforts need to be, you need to be very proactive about making that a reality. The system that the establishment would like to put in place, and the place it wants Bitcoin to hold, in their system, obviously that's going to be a system that benefits them a lot more than it benefits the rest of us. It's important to keep in mind that people like Larry Fink have very overtly said that markets don't like democracies, they like totalitarian governments. So this is a guy that is not about promoting your financial freedom or anyone's financial freedom. This is someone that likes top-down centralized control to reduce risk in markets in which he trades and is active. So he can, make more profit for his shareholders, which are, multi-billionaires. People aren't thinking about that the whole time and thinking about how they'll affect those changes later on. And again, I think it would be very naive to think that regulation or the FBI or any of these other agencies aren't going to be very intense when it comes to how people are using Bitcoin, and if they're using it the wrong way. You have a lot of these establishment actors partnering up with groups like Chain Analysis, which I believe was funded by NQTEL, the CIA. They have a very vested interest in that. And then you have former CIA directors like Mitchell Morrill, who now works for Beacon Global Strategies, putting out pieces on Bitcoin and things like that, saying that, it would be preferable if criminals used Bitcoin instead of $100 cash bills and stuff. So, they definitely think they're going to be successfully able to surveil people. And again, they will be if regular Bitcoiners or developers do nothing to prevent that. And I think there's an effort sort of to make people think, oh, look, here we are, we've arrived, we've won, and sort of get people to sit back and relax and do nothing, which again, I think was a lot of the strategy behind the whole like QAnon trust the plan thing, while Trump didn't keep his campaign promises.
And there you have it. Whitney Webb's piercing insights on fiscal policies and the government's covert agenda to strip away financial anonymity from Americans. She exposes how reckless government spending is fueling inflation and driving the dollar into the ground. What do you think about Whitney's revelations? We hope this discussion sparked some thoughts and gave you valuable perspectives. Drop your comments and observations below, give this video a thumbs up, share it with others, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.